Welcome to The Topic, where we highlight Houston Community College, our students, our programs, and our reach into the community. I'm Todd Duplantis. As we continue to move through the challenges presented by COVID-19, we're more aware than ever of the importance of understanding science. HCC is nurturing the next generation of scientists and giving other students the tools they need to understand the important work that scientists produce. Mohamad Tlass, Interim Dean of Natural Science, joins us with more. Good afternoon, Mohamad. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon to you, Todd. Thank you for having me.
Can you first give us an overview of the Natural Science Department?
Earth, Life, and Natural Sciences Division consists of biology, chemistry, physics, geology, and astronomy. All these, each department feeds into a STEM program. Whether a student, they want to move into the medical field, they can enroll in the biology department. They want to have a more hands-on in the chemistry field. They want to be a chemist or pharmacologist. They can enroll in the chemistry department, or if they want to be a geologist, or if they want to be a physicist as well, they can enroll in these programs. Each department actually feeds, like I stated earlier, into a STEM. A STEM right now, which is the major focus of every single university and community college across the nation. More importantly, our student in the biology and the chemistry department as well, upon graduation, and they want to transfer to a university, they can specialize into the medical research, which nowadays is emphasized on by a lot of fields, especially in the medical field, due to the fact what we're dealing with in the pandemic.
How has your department made the transition since we've entered into this crisis with instructing online?
The transition was not easy at first, but luckily through a collaborative and innovative effort with the help of the department chairs, the faculty, associate chairs, and program coordinators, our faculty were able to rely on. We have an early adopters, the one who've been teaching online for quite some time. What they did is they started putting files together for their colleagues, and they start sharing with their colleagues what needs to be taught to make sure that all the instructions are covered. They maintain the rigor and the competency level at the same time. Other faculty members, they relied on some of the virtual reality through publishers to be able to provide their student. Keep in mind, majority of our classes are labs. So it's very hard really to transfer from hands-on to a virtual. How they did that, our faculty were very innovative in trying to mirror that.
And it's real challenging when you have labs, because one of the biggest questions our students had, at least in social media that we were addressing, is, look, I understand I have classes, but I have labs as well. How do I complete those online? That's a huge undertaking because you have to more or less reschedule those.
That is correct. And again, as I stated earlier, some of our faculty were very innovative. Let me give you some example. Dr. Bukhari in the physics department, for example, he uses his own videos to provide to students to try and to emulate some of the physics skills in lab. In the chemistry department, we have our faculty member, Dr. Sarah Alvanapur. She asked the student to use some of their material at home, such as water, salt, sugar, and oil. The biology department, for example, they have their subcommittee. They came together and started relying on some of the virtual reality features that they have through publishers.
Dean Tlass, what will you introduce the guest that you brought here today from the Natural Science COE to let us know more about the department?
Sure. The next guest is Dr. Emmanuel Ewane. He is the department chair of the chemistry department.
Dr. Ewane, thanks for being here with us this afternoon. I've got to ask you, chemistry is certainly a challenging subject, or at least for me, being an arts major. But how do you translate that into an online learning environment? How are the students reacting?
I show you that many were not very used to the new world. And in chemistry, what we do is try to explain matters that are in abstract form, but without the lab, it is a little bit more difficult. So the transition wasn't very, very easy, but eventually students came to enjoy it because we used video chats and everything, to communicate with the students.
Doctor, tell me, why is chemistry so important to students? Even if you're not a science major, why would it be important to take a chemistry course?
Oh, because the study of chemistry is really the study of matter. And matter is just everything. So, but everything is in abstract form. But when we get to the lab, that's when we convert the abstract to concrete. That's why, making this transition was a little bit an eye-opener, because we're used to telling students weigh a certain quantity of A, B, or C. But now they will watch everything in videos. How do they understand what is actually taking place? But somehow we're able to pull it off. And I assure you, they're getting a very good knowledge of what they really need to know before getting out into the field.
A lot of folks like myself are intimidated by chemistry classes. How does HCC make to lessen the intimidation or make things more accessible for students?
That's a wonderful question. As a matter of fact, sometimes when the students come to HCC, they have this very weird idea that, it should be a little bit easier. Chemistry, I will agree with you, is not an easy topic. But then at HCC, we make it more friendly. The first thing we do is the class size. Most of our classes are capped at 25. So that interaction between the student and the instructor is very close. The student can walk up to the instructor during a break for the instructor to go over a particular topic. So the engagement there between the student and the instructor is much, much higher than you will find if the student were in an auditorium that seats 500 students. So that is the one catch that we have at HCC that brings the students to us.
Labs are very important for science classes, much less chemistry. Tell me how you're adapting your labs right now with the advent of COVID and the fact that we're all learning online.
It wasn't that easy, but thanks to some companies around us like Cengage, Pearson, LabStat, and Beyond Labs, we're able to borrow 1 or 2 labs from the different companies and put something together. What we did mostly was, although most of the labs are simulated, we came up with, readings. Like if you were doing a real lab, you have to weigh A or weigh B. We came up with those weights. So the students pretended as if they determined that before doing the labs. So we had a table, a chart where they could use in order to write a lab report.
We're talking with Dr. Emmanuel Ewane with the HCC Chair for Chemistry, and we're talking about the situation now that we're all in an online learning environment. What have been the concerns from your students, Dr. Ewane, as we've been working through this crisis with working online?
One of the biggest things they miss is that interaction between the student and the instructor that HCC is very known for. As I said earlier, our class sizes are small. So within the first week or two, almost every instructor knows the students by their first names. So that kind of causes the barrier between the student and the instructor to disappear. Now they become like your friend. They can walk up to you and tell you, oh, I don't get this, I don't get that. Or they could follow you to your office during office hours for you to talk to them one-on-one. So that is what the students missed a lot due to the COVID-19.
Dr. Ewane, thank you for joining us here on the topic today. We look forward to seeing you back in the building soon, and I'm sure you'll be welcoming that opportunity as well.
I bet I will.
All right, thanks. Thank you for being here. When we come back, we're going to learn how the biology department made the shift to online learning. I'm Todd Duplantis. We'll be back with the topic after this. Welcome back to the topic. I'm Todd Duplantis. When HCC shifted to online learning over our spring break, the biology department dug deep into its collective expertise to find new ways of teaching and instructing online. DaeJan Grigsby, chair of the biology department, joins us with more. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Grigsby, we'll start with something basic. Why don't you give us an overview of the program? How many students you guys usually welcome in annually, classes, and do all of those have labs?
We offered this spring more than 670 class sections, and more than 300 of those were originally designed to be the hands-on experiential lab courses. We have approximately 60 full-time faculty, but we also have more than 100 part-time faculty on the ground this spring. And combined, we administer to or teach to over 14,000 students this spring.
That's a large number of students. It had to have been a monumental task getting ready to deliver instruction online, as it was with all of our faculty, because we left for spring break. We kind of knew things were changing. We didn't know how fast it was going to happen. Next thing you know, it's delayed our return, and oh yeah, we're all going to be delivering courses online. How big of an undertaking was that for you guys?
Monumental is the word. So we have a large department, and it takes a lot to try and stop it on a dime and then alter course. And so the first thing that we had to do was determine who was well versed to already teach online, who was comfortable teaching in the online environment, who already had a substantial footprint in our current online portal, the learning management system that we call Canvas. So each faculty member then had to be identified as either a transition mentor or a transition mentee. And transition means transition to online teaching. So we had to be determined to maintain instructional quality, as you can imagine. And that depended upon a small, what I call an army. We have what are identified curriculum leaders in biology, and what they are, they're at the helm of determining, fashioning, and maintaining the curriculum standards in our department for our various topics for content delivery. And so we have 8 of those discipline subcommittee chairs, and we work together starting right before spring break began, and we basically didn't let the pressure up until we had crafted transitional curriculum plans, and then those had to be crafted, they had to be agreed upon, they had to be refined, and then we had to disseminate them to all of those faculty that I mentioned previously. And then not only dissemination, because again, if we had faculty that were becoming comfortable or just getting their interest piqued in the online realm, we had to then also walk them through successful implementation. So monumental was the word. And so I thank you for asking that.
Yeah, you know, I had people texting me over spring break saying, hey, why doesn't HCC just go online? And it's not as easy as it sounds. And then I found out that through Canvas, which is a system you guys were using, that's usually what, a 6-week course that faculty has to take. And you guys were scrimping that in with really in a matter of days or a week, if you're lucky, to get everybody up and ready. And one of the things I don't think the general public realizes is the number of labs and hands-on learning experience a community college of our size has. And I imagine the biology department has a number of labs you guys had to make plans for.
Absolutely correct. Out of our class load that I mentioned, more than 300 of those sections were the labs. And those labs spanned 9 subjects, but only 1 subject before now had any sort of online footprint. And that was intro biology for non-majors, just 1 out of the 9 subjects. All of the rest were necessarily face-to-face, but that was by intent, by design, by those curriculum leaders, as I mentioned. But the laboratory space is where we perfect our online learning. We're fortunate in that respect. We are allowed regularly to have flipped classrooms, to have active learning, to have the face-to-face collaborative peer-to-peer teaching and intentional dialogue and things like that in our laboratory space. But laboratory, again, is very difficult to then transition to the online realm. You need to be able to do things by all of the senses that we almost take for granted. In some classes, you need to be able to, for example, inoculate something with a very fragile wire loop on a very soft and slippery agar surface. So that's going to take a certain feel. But you also need, in other class labs, you need to be able to appreciate the heft of the set of bones that perhaps cradles the brain. So the skull bones, they have a particular density, a particular heft and weight to them. So that's also a particular feel. But when you do dissection of a heart in a different lab experience, you would also need to be able to craft or dissect with the proper technique. And that's going to be a particular feel that takes particular practice. And then if you're mixing chemicals together for whatever purpose, you would have to be able to detect noxious fumes that might result. And so that's another set of senses that you would rely upon. And working in teams, working with proper space, that sort of thing for everybody's safety. Some of those things are very, very hard to replicate. And all of the sensations that go into that were at the forefront of our minds when we were trying to make sure that we were attaining standards in the online space for transitional purposes.
Because we were forced more or less out of necessity to translate online, do you think that has sparked creativity in your department because people are thinking of new innovative ways of delivering our instruction?
Absolutely. I think that it was a happy accident, and I'm not sure that's the best way to talk about what everybody's been going through. But with respect to instructional methods, our faculty they were able to not only learn from each other, but they were also able to learn from other disciplines because they entered into different training sessions with persons from all over the system that taught from different backgrounds. And so they were helping to learn how to address some problems with perspectives that they may never have reached out to ask for. But because we were all sharing an online training space, then people were fueling their juices, so to speak. And so they were looking and borrowing from virtual training and experiences that they were able to do. There were outside products that they were able to bring in to provide to their students, and everybody was very comfortable in sharing and also ensuring that the standards again were met, which is always tantamount to what we do when we're affecting curriculum. So it was about vetting resources, and it was about diving down into trying to create, for example, data sets that students could review because the students weren't necessarily creating their own data sets. And so everybody was really, really working as a team where they might not have before, because when you're married to a location, for example, you necessarily draw from what's around you. But once we entered into the online space, people's ideas were sparked because different perspectives were brought to the same table. So it was an interesting, happy accident in the way that we were able to enrich some of our curriculum.
We've been talking with Dr. DaeJan Grigsby, Chair of the Biology Department for Houston Community College. Thanks for being here with us on the topic, and I'm sure you'll be looking forward to getting back in the buildings in the next few months as well.
Yes, and it's my extreme pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
When we come back, I hate to use the word new normal, but I want to talk about this new normal we're living in. What's online instruction for the Natural Science Department going to look like when we go back to some sort of normalcy? I'm Todd Duplantis. We'll be back on the topic after this.
In these times, we're all doing our share to battle the virus.
We view an attack against one faith or ethnic group as an attack against all of us.
We are all in this together.
Many of us are immigrants. The virus affects all nationalities.
We are all working together.
We are all Texans.
Welcome back to the topic on HCC TV. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel and share our Facebook post as well, and join us in all social media across all platforms. We've got a great show for you today. We've been talking about the Natural Sciences Department. And you know, in natural sciences, you have to often come up with innovative ways to research hidden, distant, or otherwise hard to observe phenomena. HCC Chair of Natural Sciences, Dr. Kumela Tafa joins us now to tell us about how the department turned their creativity to shift towards online learning. Welcome, Dr. Tafa.
Thank you for having me, Todd.
So tell me, we talked a bit about it earlier in the show. You guys, as really with all the faculty and staff across HCC, had a very short time to get ready for online instruction. How did you prepare for this?
As other speakers have elaborated earlier, it was not easy, but it was all the dedication of the faculty. You could say the COVID-19 problem came with also opportunities. When you look at education overall, the way we are communicating today have changed the world. So we have used that forum and transformed ourselves into really a wonderful delivery of education in remote modality. And as I said, that was not easy, but it was accomplished, and we are proud of our faculty.
Did you face technology issues? Well, I mean, not everybody is fluent in IT and knows exactly what to do with their computers. We all have strengths and weaknesses. But did you face some technology issues with the faculty and staff and getting everyone up to speed?
In our everyday life, what do we have? We have our internet, we have our laptops, we have our computers. So everybody is, so to some extent, is literate, we could say. But when it comes to educational delivery, teaching is not just knowing the subject. One has to know the environment, environment in which instruction is delivered. So when we are using for that, yes, at the beginning, there were some hiccups here and there. But as time goes on, that was refined. And you could say that challenge, we overcome that challenge mainly through, again, the dedication of faculty and what also the system provided. For instance, as an example, not just Canvas, the use of WebEx Teams in teaching was a great help to faculty. And the learning that and utilizing it for students, communicating with the students was a great opportunity. As I said, this pandemic came also with opportunity. So that is another way of looking at it. Even though, well, as you have said earlier, well, it is a bad environment or issue today, but faculty use that as an opportunity to tap into what the future of education looks like.
Well, that's where I want to go with this now, because it's all a guessing game. But I imagine when we do go back in the buildings, things are going to look a bit different because we're living in a different world right now. And we probably will be for at least the next 6 to 18 months. So what have you learned from this experience? And what do you see us doing more of once they start opening up the buildings?
The new normal might not be the normal we already know. So we are kind of shifting towards this remote delivery of education. So we have to refine that. Okay, but when we go there, what we are missing is, as the previous chairs said, we'll miss that one-to-one interaction with our students. Okay, so that's the big thing for community college. That small group of ratio of student to faculty that helps students, where we know our students on the second week, everybody's name, and they know our name, and so we communicate with one another. Everybody learns in a different way. Some of us are good at hearing, listening. Some of us are good in visual things. Some of us are explorers. We want to explore by ourselves. So this new normal, as we have said, might tap into mainly to the explorers than the visual or the people who have a different way of learning. So we will tap into that, and probably we have to redefine our curriculum in that way to capture the opportunity as well as the challenges we have today.
You know, I've talked to several people who went to HCC at one time, several of them many, many years ago, decades ago. And one of the things they all say that they're appreciative that they had smaller classes and they got to know those instructors. Do you see a chance of when we do go back to this new normal that we may even have smaller classes and smaller gatherings with smaller labs, and that one-to-one instruction or interaction with the professors, do you see more of that happening as a benefit to the students?
Yes, I think that is where we are going. With today's social distancing order in place, we cannot have 24 students in a classroom. There's no way we can have 24 students in a classroom. So the classroom size has to come down, say to either 9 or 8. So that is an opportunity for students as well as faculty to know each other on one-to-one basis and have that personalized instruction. And yes, you're absolutely right. I think that is in the horizon for us. If not in the summer, we are not going to do that in the summer. Maybe around the fall, that is going to be the new normal. It's in our horizon.
You know, it's certainly we're in unsettling times right now, but it seems like there are a lot of good things happening, and it seems like we're all looking to think more innovatively to, in the essence, give our students a better outcome in the end.
Yes, absolutely. In science, what is our challenge for the delivery of education remotely? Okay. Especially when you're looking at physics, geology, even astronomy. For astronomy, you can say, oh, today is a very good sunny day out there, so I'm going to look at the sun. How are you going to do that remotely? Okay. Well, you can show students some website that shows live streaming, but this is like teaching someone swimming just by theory, without putting the person in water. So when the time comes and when you ask that person to swim, it's going to drown. So that is where this one-to-one classroom interaction as well as laboratory experience does matter. Yeah? But our faculty really came up with innovative ideas where students are actually doing hands-on exercises in their dormitory or in their apartments. To give you an example, one of our faculty members said, okay, do this pendulum lab. That's what we do in our lab, in our physics lab. And the students say, how am I going to do this physics lab there? The instructor told them, look around in your house, what you have in your apartment, just use those tools and do the experiment. Sure enough, students came up with an idea. Get a string, attach a mass to it, and swing it, calculate the oscillation. And they did a beautiful lab at their setting without coming to the campus laboratory setting. So those are the innovative ideas as well as, the challenges we are facing. But this is a good thing as well as, it will come with its limitations as well.
We've been talking with Dr. Kumela Tafa, HCC Chair of the Natural Science Center of Excellence. Thanks for being here with us on the show, and thank you for joining us. And thank you for being here today on The Topic on HCC TV. I'm Todd Duplantis. Have a great week. I'll see you next time.